welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Check us out, gophnx.com. Become a diehard today. Pick up a free hat and or shirt every single year. You are a diehard. You do not want to miss the sweet, sweet deals we got going on at the merchandise locker. What's the dealio today? I'm Johnny Venerable. He's Bo Brock. We kind of put it in the show title. Believe the Cardinals with what they do, not what they say. And I think, again, this week, Bo Brock, with the quarterback situation, further evidence of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the status quo as far as the procedures for the practice and the quarterbacks today as they've been the last 2 weeks. As Kyler Murray enters his third week of practice, he was still out there throwing to practice squad receivers and tight ends. I mean, I'm sure once they got into 7s and 11s and stuff like that, he went right back to running with the backup squad. But I'm sure they probably gave Jeff Driscoll, who kind of took the role of Clayton Tune last week and last couple weeks, and Tune took the role of Joshua Dobbs as far as throwing to the active receivers and tight ends. So, I think that there is a big smokescreen that Jonathan Gannon and crew are trying to create and make the Browns a little uneasy as far as who they prepare for at the quarterback position for the Arizona Cardinals. But two Twitter sleuths like yourself and myself, and then, of course, our very educated audience, we're not exactly buying it.
Now, we're not here to eat the slop. And I say that respectfully. It is slop, though. Clayton Tune starting for this team on Sunday. It was this time last week when we were debating because Kyler was trying to force the issue for Baltimore. And you kind of posed the question to me, knowing full well, the answer, what about against Cleveland? Could there be any wiggle room at all there? And I've been told, definitively no. And so this Dobbs thing kind of threw a wrench in that. I'm like, oh, maybe they're switching it up, just maybe. No, they're just substituting Clayton Tune for Joshua Dobbs, and they're sticking to their plan. It's a plan that, for better or worse, they're going to follow. And I know it disappoints the fan base. It disappoints this podcast. Respectfully to Clayton Tune, I want to watch Kyler Murray play football, especially if he's healthy. But what I will say, and I feel more confident about this with each passing day, I've made a lot about the fact that they've got to win games to push them out of the narrative for a quarterback. If they're willing to play Clayton Tune and throw him up against Myles Garrett and company, not sacrificing this game, but I mean, you're a significantly better team with Kyler Murray, and you have a way better chance to win on Sunday. I feel like maybe there's not that sense of urgency. And you can definitively say, well, maybe these three folks that are running the show, and Austin Ford Gannon and probably Kyler Murray, maybe there's certainly with the two at the top, a great sense of feeling comfortable with who they are within this organization, job security. It's we can be about our timeline 1-7, 0-8. It doesn't matter. And now you've got Kyler Murray kind of wrapped into that fold. I don't know, man. I thought they'd have more sense of urgency. They do not. And if you're hoping Kyler Murray, which we are, is part of this franchise in 2024, I think that's a good thing. It's not good here for the next 5 days, but it's a good thing, I think, long term.
No, I think it's a good point. I mean, as far as them being confident in what they're doing and sticking to the plan, despite the losses stacking up. I mean, they've lost a bunch of games in a row, and you're a first-year head coach, and Jonathan Gannon is very aware that this is a results-driven business. No matter how long the leash is and how much how much confidence he's garnered from the fan base for the direction of this organization, along with general manager Monty Ossenfort. But I think the key here is the process, the commitment to the process. I mean, that's something that you've heard ever since Jonathan Gannon took over. Even when they had their lone win on the season, Jonathan Gannon, he kind of poo-pooed a little bit hey, I don't want this to take away from the process. I feel like the result, especially as far as a game, a win, a loss, a tie, it takes away from the process of preparing for that game and then getting right back into the process following that game. And this is all part of the process. This is the plan that I think him and Monty Ossenfort probably worked in concert to hatch, and it's been something that's been there the whole time. Circled the date on your calendar, circled the date on your Cardinals magnet fridge schedule that you might have, that Kyler Murray, most likely it was going to be week 10 against the Atlanta Falcons, and despite poor quarterback play from a guy that showed pretty encouraging results for 3 weeks of this NFL season out of nowhere, and Joshua Dobbs, you had to weather the storm but you're still committed to the process. You're still committed to the plan. And no matter, the outrage for a fan base, where I saw my Twitter mentions when I, reported what the deal was at quarterback today for a third straight week with Kyler Murray, was that, this team's being mismanaged. No, I mean, this was the plan the entire time. So, like, are they mismanaging the plan that they hatched months ago, and that just because things are going a little awry, that they need to pivot because of an angry mob that want to see, obviously better quarterback play? No, I don't. I think that they're just committed to it. Kyler Murray's going to come back. He's going to have more than enough time to right the ship and improve and answer a lot of the questions that people are asking about Kyler Murray.
Well, this is a question that's posed a lot right now. Arizona Animal, maybe if the process is throwing away 10 weeks, then yes. I would say more so, not 10 weeks. How about week 9? And I'm not gonna sit here and say the Cardinals don't have a chance this weekend, especially like PJ Walker, Deshaun Watson. The Cardinals could win this game with their defense by themselves, the way the defense is playing. But I do think that you're asking a lot from a 5th-round rookie. But then I thought about it, and it's like, well, of course they're comfortable doing this, because they were comfortable going into the season with the roster in the state that it was. They were comfortable going into the season with this cornerback room, which is not great. They were comfortable going into the season at defensive line, which I think has the worst personnel in the NFL. So it's like, of course they're comfortable throwing Clayton Tune out there to see what he's got, what the cut of his jib, check out his moxie against Myles Garrett and company. Like that you know what? The more we've had time to stew on this, it's just like, yeah, this is what they're going to do. Like they're not living week to week. And I think, I've certainly been conditioned with how reactionary Steve Keim was as the general manager for this franchise. Like you were living and dying with every game. And for a while that was great, right? Because you felt like you had a sense of urgency to produce, trying to shape out what he considered the best 53-man roster possible. Cardinals aren't playing like that anymore. So, this, I think, will still be an expedited rebuild. If you get the kind of play you want out of Kyler Murray, I think this is a playoff team next year. But for one more week, again, I looked up the forecast this morning. It snowed in Cleveland. Like they've got snow on the ground. That field is going to be rock hard this weekend against the number 1 defense in the NFL. And, we're going to talk about it. Clayton Tune, poor guy, may not have a bunch of the Cardinals, let's just call him weaponry offensively. I mean, Clayton Tune is not set up for success this weekend, but neither, I think, would Kyler Murray. I mean, we know James Conner. We feel pretty good about him coming back next week against Atlanta as well. Atlanta's defense is not, barring something unforeseen, is not on the same level as Cleveland. So they have had this date circled for some time. We've sourced that within the last probably 10 to 14 days. And now we're in a position where we have to get through collectively as this fan base covering this team the next 5 days. Because it's like, I'm tired. I'm tired of watching this team lose and be inept offensively on Sundays. I love doing our post-game shows, whether it be at Gila River or this weekend at BetMGM. Like that should be the best part of my week right now, my football week. And watching a team that's won 5 games in the last year, it weighs on you, and it's weighed on this fan base. And so I get it from the mindset. You're dangling it in front of him. You want to play with that shiny toy, and he's ready to go, and you're going to play Clayton Tune. I'm never going to apologize for people being upset, especially when they consume this as often as we do. But you take a 5,000-foot view and just say, yeah, this is what they've always been, tempted to do, wanting to do. I'm shouldn't be surprised by it.
I don't want to seem like somebody that's like carrying water for the organization, because
you're a big time shill. You're a shill boy.
We proved that we don't. But I might have 2 like huge gallon buckets on each side. But I mean, as you look throughout this offseason, and this offseason by no means was a perfect one. Like we've pointed out, I mean, as far as how they dropped the ball in negotiations and not locking in Joshua Dobbs, or at least, a solid quarterback option outside of Colt McCoy as they await the return of Kyler Murray was a huge misstep, right?
Yeah.
I'm not buying too much into the lack of, I guess, aggressiveness as far as trying to get a running back and in other positions, because, your hands are tied as far as really trying to clean up the mess left by the previous regime. But I think what this team has done far more often than not has given you reasons to trust Monty Ossenfort and trust Jonathan Gannon. And I think that this is just a part of that. This is a part of, okay, they have to weather the storm like you said, 5 more days. They got to get through 2 more practices.
Long days, 5 long days.
Well, I mean, beautiful here in the desert, right? At least they aren't in the mistake by the lake in Cleveland, right. Jonathan Gannon's beautiful hometown. But I think Cleveland's great. I was joking. I mean, as far
it's not Arizona. I think we can say that.
It's not, especially not
Midwest.
today,
not Arizona.
as we're sitting here and they're long in the sweater weather, and you could probably criticize me for wearing a pullover in it because it's beautiful out and it's unnecessary.
Gorgeous.
I just want to show off the PHNX flag. But I think that they've earned your trust, and they should have. I mean, as far as Monty Ossenfort, he wasn't gambling. He said, "I'm not going to give Zach Allen this much money. I'm not going to bring back Byron Murphy. I'm going to hold out, and I'm going to use one of these big assets, the biggest asset that I have, the 3rd overall pick. I'm going to trade down, and then I'm going to trade back up." And he's made all these really rock solid roster moves and put this roster, this organization in a position for success in the future. Now we'll see what he does with it this offseason. I got a lot of confidence in that as well. But man, I think that you just have to kind of trust in Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon that they are doing what's best for this organization. And if just having as a 1-week placeholder in Clayton Tune and sacrificing them to the I guess the climate, the conditions there in Cleveland, it's going to be football weather. And of course that pass rush, that pass defense, that Brian Baldinger is going to shed more light on later today. I think that that's just something that you're going to have to take a gigantic leap of faith with. And I see another article out today that makes you say, why the F would I trust this organization? It's like, well, the guys that got into the building in February and the end of January, Monty and JG, I think that they haven't given any reason to maybe be skeptical about that.
The article Bo was alluding to, ESPN, a couple different writers collaborated. It's very similar to the Athletic article that we've broken out in this podcast. So we're not going to hash into it. If you guys want to check it out, I encourage you to. It's a solid read, absolutely. But for the sake of this show today, I mean, you said sacrifice Clayton Tune. I think too, like outside of a miraculous defensive performance, like you're almost comfortable. You're never comfortable losing games, but I mean, you're sacrificing this game. I mean, but Kyler Murray's recovery is bigger than just a singular game. Mm-hmm. That this shows you this the definitive statement. Kyler Murray and his future with the organization is bigger than this weekend at the Cleveland Browns. That's what they're telling you. And like in a lot of ways, like that should make you feel good as a Cardinal fan. Like, hey man, we're going to do right by this guy. We went to a statue ceremony. He's been bought in. We want to have a really nice end to the year with him over the course of 8 games. We feel like we can win a couple. Again, like this sucks right now. I hate it. I don't like living in it, but it's going to be a different.
We want to see Kyler play. We want to see Kyler play, right?
But the kind of the sub bullet to that is like, yeah, I'm enticed to see Clayton Tune play, and let's let him have some success, even if it doesn't come into a win. I'm curious as it relates to how they're going to do it with some offensive personnel missing. We're going to talk about the injury report, but for me, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think that this is reckless any longer. Like Clayton Tune with the training wheels and protecting him and potentially getting bad habits and, playing behind maybe a questionable offensive line at the beginning of the season. You didn't know, and the offensive line has improved to be actually one of the more consistent position groups for this team. But I don't think at this point it's reckless in that you're putting, Clayton Tune in a position to fail, right?
And I also say this too.
Yeah.
Like, and somebody said this in the chat, Brent, who's going to be at the game this weekend. That's fantastic, Brent. And hopefully we can get you to a game here in the Valley. I did not like the optics of having Kyler Murray be active and backing up Clayton Tune. So while like selfishly, I want to see Kyler Murray in pads and a helmet this weekend, I thought that was a dumb fucking idea. Mm-hmm. Like if he's active, you got to play him. So it clearly feels like we're getting away from that. And Jeff Driscoll, who's been here for 5 minutes, who Gannon said today, Bo, and you can attest to this, is ready to go. Like Jeff Driscoll is going to back up Clayton Tune. That's the right decision if you're going to drag this out one more week. Like had they gone about that differently to begin this week, like I'll nitpick Gannon, like maybe if you're, thinking about this is probably not likely after what the fan base went through last week, roller coaster of emotions, right? The activeness, the term active, I mean, that's a trigger word. People want to see him active. So I think it's the right move now to clarify he might not be active, which we know he won't be active now. I think it's a mistake to tempt yourself with him just like 5 feet away from you in helmet and shoulder pads if you don't intend to give him the reins 100%. So I just wanted to say that because they've remedied it. It's disappointing, but it makes more sense than what they were going to do.
We've all seen a great sports movie, right? Where the hero comes in at halftime and saves the day. Are you telling me that, Jonathan Gannon is proven that, he's not going to be persuaded by a lot outside of what his coaching staff and his front office are thinking. But still, I mean, he's a red-blooded American man. I mean, he's seen the replacements. He's seen Shane Falco walk in the locker room at halftime and said, "Remember when Shane Falco came in and saved the day?" That you think Kyler Murray possesses that ability, especially if it's in a tight game. PJ Walker's out there fumbling the offense on the other side
of Deshaun Watson's throwing picks like he has been all year. It would be tough to look over to the side and see like Hollywood Brown and Trey McBride, and they're talking to Kyler Murray and he's padded up, and it's like, yeah, K1's not going to war with us today.
And that's something I really want to kind of the remainder of the week at practice and access to the locker room. We'll talk to Budda Baker and we'll talk to hopefully some more players in this offense. But, the mindset of the locker room, at least for this week, is they're right there, they're in the red zone and they're looking to score as far as get Kyler Murray back. But their belief, their confidence in this coaching staff, in this decision, because they're seeing it. I mean, DJ Humphries told us today, Kyler Murray out there, he looks like Kyler Murray. I mean, he looks like the same, dominating playmaker quarterback that he's seen, the previous 4 years. Like, and Tristan Colon, a guard, is like, hey, is he always that on? And DJ's like, yeah, most of the time, yeah. And so like they're seeing it. Like you had a report, you had a source last week. I mean, he was just cutting up the Cardinals' first team defense. So
he like, that's where we thought maybe there's a chance that they feel tempted. I mean, like against Baltimore, that's a a true one possession game in the fourth quarter if Kyler Murray plays. But
no, but I mean, this is
bigger
like,
than this season.
How are the players dealing with like, okay, I'm seeing this with my eyes. I'm experiencing this. You're telling me that guy's not ready, that guy's not going to be the best option for us to win. But you have to kind of take into account, like, it's not about winning necessarily right now. It's about this process and this process to get this organization to consistently be a winner down the road.
It is about down the road. I mean, we talked about it yesterday, 12 draft picks, $80 to $100 million, and hopefully your franchise quarterback in the fold ready to go this offseason. And again, a game in early November in a 1-7 season. They're you know what they're going to say? They're going to say that was great experience for Clayton Tune to be able to take into this offseason, assuming he survives and he's not, for lack of a better term, in a body bag. Like he'll be okay, and he'll be able to take this and say, I can study this offseason. This is real tangible tape evidence. I don't want to see him at any point after this week, because that means Kyler Murray's ready to rock and roll. But yeah, I again, not my favorite scenario by any means, but I like how they've remedied it. Jeff Driscoll now, he's part of the practice squad, Bo Brock, but kind of we touched on it. The injury report is concerning for somebody like Clayton Tune if it wasn't already. So you're down James Conner, and then we see DeMercado didn't practice today, along with Michael Wilson. So what's going on there?
Yeah, so Michael Wilson, he said, kind of lost in the quarterback carousel conversation on Monday. JG said he wasn't too concerned. He thinks Michael Wilson's going to be okay. He didn't practice today with a shoulder. Well, DeMercado has been a little bit under the radar because he played so many snaps on Sunday. But we did see Ingram in there near the end of the game. But he didn't practice with a toe. So we got to figure out the extent as far as what his toe injury is. We'll get more information tomorrow. And then Tristan Colon, who we saw go out early in the game on Sunday, still out with a calf. And you've got your starting left guard already on IR and Wilkinson. So it looks like Dennis Daly could come back. And then you had, Chris Barnes return, Greg Dortch, who told us yesterday on the All Purpose podcast, he was good to go. He was back at a limited capacity. And so was Kevin Strong, who's played decent on the defensive line. And then, your quarterback, Kyler Murray, is back on the injury report with the knee as a full participant in practice. As Howard Balzer will point out, full in what is outlined as far as his role right now in practice. So whatever they say, like that's his job, he did his job to his fullest capabilities.
I wonder, like last week we saw like some Keontae Ingram in the fourth quarter, even in the second half. I wonder if DeMercado got banged up earlier than expected. I mean, like I'd be fine with Keontae Ingram getting 10 plus touches this game, kind of mix it up a little bit. But man, like Rondale Moore, I think this is an opportunity to try to get him, 3 to 5 touches in the run game. If you don't have DeMercado, or let's just say he's compromised to some degree, he's not a huge guy. And I think they like him as a part of their backfield, but he's a 10 to 12 touch kind of player, a little bit less than what Chase Edmonds used to do as a complimentary back to James Conner. So this week, I mean, there's no bell cow without James Conner. We expect him back next week, but supplementing like 10 carries here, 10 carries there, because like we talked to, about it ad nauseum. Like you can't have Clayton Tune throwing 30 times this game. You just can't. Even if you're down, you just can't do that for his confidence. You have to find a way, a semblance to keep the offense steady. And there's no team that runs the ball more on 2nd and 10, Bo Brock, in the entire NFL than the Arizona Cardinals after having an incomplete pass on first down. They are the number 1 team in the NFL. If Clayton Tune throws an incomplete pass on first down, guess what? 100% of the time, they are running the ball on second down. It's what they want to do, at least with Kyler Murray out. Michael Wilson, though, would be a big, big loss. I mean, that's not to diminish DeMercado, but Michael Wilson, bounce back game last week in terms of targets, a little bit more in a rhythm. He and Hollywood Brown can, of course, help alleviate some of this concern. I throw Trey McBride in there as well for Clayton Tune. Intermediate passing game, really good hands out of that group of 3. I mean, you start getting down to Zach Pascal, who we've seen this year struggle to catch the football. I mean, just like with Joshua Dobbs, you got to elevate and pick up your quarterback this week. Would hate for Michael Wilson. I was rooting, selfishly, Michael Wilson playing 17 games this year after, knock on wood, being hurt a lot at Stanford.
Yeah. I mean, you would have Zach Pascal entering into in the starting lineup potentially. Hopefully, get some snaps for our guy Greg Dortch, and get Rondale Moore more involved in the passing game for sure, and then hopefully keep Trey McBride trending up, who had such a spectacular performance, a franchise record with 10 receptions from a tight end in a game. I mean, it's a sign of how futile the position's been in this organization. But at the same time, it was a breakout performance by Trey McBride that helped them scratch and claw, make that game look respectable at the end of the contest on Sunday. And then also a sneaky injury here is Damian Williams was placed on IR. Like he's done. Right. Like the guy that was elevated off the practice squad, a veteran running back who's seen it all, who showed, he was pretty effective in limited snaps. I mean, it's Ingram and it's Rondale Moore, basically. I mean, you don't really have a whole lot if DeMercado can't go. So that's going to be something to really monitor. I mean, DeMercado, since kind of taken over the reins in the last 3 games without James Conner, 35 carries for 147 yards. That's 4.2 yards per clip. Catches the ball out of the backfield. And he's just been solid in pass pro for an undrafted rookie free agent. So those are some important things to kind of look at there. James Conner, JG was asked about that today. He says he's looking good. He looks excellent. And, I've maintained this. I don't think that there's going to be anything that's going to delay his return as soon as he's eligible with his stint on the IR. I think James Conner, after this week, once he's eligible come Monday, he's going to be a guy that's going to return to the Arizona Cardinals lineup. And, that just happens to be, the date that we circle on our calendar. That would be also the Falcons game that we expect Kyler Murray back in.
Yeah, they're loading up for next weekend. It's almost like it's the second half of the season, like technically. So it makes you think like that they always intend to split it in half and get through these first 8 to 9 games. But it's a new season. Like, the FPI, which we talk about, the Football Power Index, has the Cardinals like as the definitive favorite right now to have the first overall pick. But there's even like a sub bullet to that, which is, but this assumes that Kyler Murray doesn't return. Well, he is returning. Like, so if you get a top 10 to 12 quarterback on a given Sunday back in your lineup, I don't care if it's for a rebuilding team or not, and your schedule has some cupcakes on it for a team with a quarterback like Kyler Murray to compete against, like you're just going to be way better by default. Like we have seen now definitively, you can be loaded. Atlanta's got great personnel offensively. Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts and Drake London. I mean, they scoffed at the notion this offseason of trading for Lamar Jackson. And they went with Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. And it's going to get everybody fired. Whereas the Cardinals now, a lot of people scoff at their personnel, but they've got a quarterback that was taken first overall that's, in the conversation as an MVP candidate 2 years ago and two-time Pro Bowler. Oh, look, the Cardinals are way better than we thought because they've got a top quarterback. So again, like I think we get lost. I'm guilty of this too, in the personnel, the minutia of it. Hey, this guy's an all-pro and this guy's a terrific player. It's like really all that matters is the coach and the quarterback. And I think we've got a really good answer as to what kind of coach Jonathan Gannon is. He's a competitor. His team rallies around him. The Cardinals are way ahead of schedule in terms of how they compete on Sundays. It hasn't translated to wins yet. But again, anybody with eyes, the optics say this team's heading in the right direction. And then you've got a quarterback coming back that if he can prove he's the same player that he was pre-injury, that's a deadly combination for this franchise that they have not had since Bruce Arians and Carson Palmer.
Chat unreal tonight. Eddie Garrett about to have 716 sacks. Oh man, Myles Garrett is yeah. I mean, he's killed everybody. I mean, he made Trent Williams look foolish a couple times when the Browns handed the L to the 49ers. We've got Michael Evans saying I said 5 wins. We've got a couple people saying sneaky tank. Eddie saw my first mock draft with Maye as the number 1 pick. That's we might talk about that coming up here.
Shield your eyes.
Yeah, Eris saying Kyler practicing full speed though. Yes, he is. He's practicing at full speed, no knee brace, no nothing. Just continues during the open portion to be thrown to practice squad receivers and tight ends.
I'll tell you what's not practice squad, but is big time. Starting Caliber app. The BetMGM Sportsbook app, bet 10, get 200. Again, like if you've made a bet with our friends at BetMGM ahead of this weekend, you're like, oh, I thought Kyler Murray was playing. Well, if you do bet 10, get 200, you're going to get $200 using that bonus code PHNX, regardless of the outcome of your wager. This line, first of all, I think this line's way too big, even with Clayton Tune at 8.5. So I would take the Cardinals plus 8.5, sprinkle it in with PHNX as your promo code. Download the Sportsbook app for BetMGM on your Android or iOS, or I like to go on my desktop computer, visit betmgm.com, get a big, large screen, look at all the different prop bets for the weekend, look at all the different over-unders. It's fantastic. It's my favorite place to dabble. And once you have a qualifying bet, you're going to receive $200 in bonus bets regardless of your wager's outcome. So Browns win by 30 points. If the Cardinals win by 10 points, it doesn't matter. You're the winner. Sign up with BetMGM. Use that bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to my guy Shane Diefenbach talk about it in the disclaimer.
Problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
I redeemed myself today, but I was also out there looking fly in my Shady Rays sunglasses. Love them. Yeah. Premium polarized shades at not a premium price. Independent sunglasses company that likes to keep, yeah, you're rocking yours, Damon Dog. They like to keep that price point well under $100, and they certainly do that. And you can save yourself some more money by just being a PHNX listener and viewer. Just go to shadyrays.com and check out their full product line. Pick out 2 or more pairs of premium polarized sunglasses. Save yourself 50% on those by using that promo code PHNX. Not only going to save some money, but you're also going to get sunglasses that look great, and they're backed by an unbelievable, insane protection plan that if you lose, you break your sunglasses, they're going to replace them, no questions asked. Take them to the store, send them back to shadyrays.com. Shadyrays.com. Use the promo code PHNX to save 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Check out why 250,000 people have rated them 5 stars online. Shadyrays.com.
Keep this conversation going with regard to a little practice highlights, Bo Brock, of a certain franchise quarterback.
Yeah, let's take a look at Kyler Murray out there throwing the pill around. Look at him. Somebody pointed this out in the Twitter replies that they thought, could this be me? No, this is somebody actually pulling down the football, making a catch. I did not catch the football thrown at me by Kyler Murray. That's just him working out, just getting his feet on the grass, throwing just ropes. You got him working under center a little bit here. But you'll see, like number 19 is Jeff Driscoll. This is where Kyler Murray he backs, it kind of separates from the active players and the starting players, and now he's just working out with practice squad receivers and tight ends. That's Caden Davis he's throwing this ball to. That's a good ball. And working really on the under center type stuff. So you got Hoodie Kyler here just throwing a couple good balls and continues to be the status quo, I think, until probably early next week.
It's good stuff, man. So how many, let's fast forward to next week. Speaking of next week, that will have been how many weeks of practice? Not like days, but like since he's been activated.
Yeah.
Seattle, Baltimore, the Browns, the Falcons.
Yeah. So this is his third week of practice. Next week he'll be entering his fourth week of practice since returning from PUP, and then he'll be activated. He has to be activated by Wednesday next week. So at this point next week, it's got to happen.
And he'll be activated. But the point I'm trying to make is, so we go out for training camp every year in late July, right? And they, it's a slow burn. They start ramping things up. When do they ramp things up? Pretty early August, right? You have the scrimmage, you start preseason games. When does the season start? Second week of September. So it's almost the exact kind of same timeline, maybe give or take a week to 10 days that you would have from the beginning of when they ramp things up for training camp, Bo, and the start of the regular season. And you can't tell me that wasn't done on purpose. Like, we're going to stretch this out and try to simulate a preseason / training camp-esque environment. A lot of training camp is the mental aspect too. So, and he's been able to absorb all that all this time he's been out anyway. But from a physical standpoint, this is his training camp. His training camp started 2 weeks ago, and it ends next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And he's going to play the Atlanta Falcons. And so, like, I don't expect him now. Like, I thought initially if he would have come back against Seattle, certainly wasn't an option, but Baltimore, I thought there'd be some rust to knock off. Like, I don't know how you feel watching him in practice. Like, I expect him to play well when he comes back. Like, maybe a quarter and a half. Like, as a rookie, remember that Lions game? It took him a couple quarters to get going. Like, I think he's going to come out next week against Atlanta and have a really nice game. I expect like over 60 completion percentage, 2-1, if not better, touchdown to interception ratio. I don't think we're going to get like incompetence from Kyler Murray against Atlanta. And again, like, you've used up all this time. I think the expectation is that he will play well.
Yeah. I mean, they're setting him up for the easiest landing spot that he aligned with going into this season, right? Obviously, you want him to maybe go against a Giants defense or, one sprinkle in here at maybe like a Los Angeles Rams, even with Aaron Donald still doing and playing at a high level. But some defenses that he could have some success against early. And I know that you can look at the stats and you can kind of get overwhelmed and say Atlanta's just as tough as anybody else. But I think being at home and hopefully having a better or closer to full complement of playmakers with James Conner potentially coming back. I don't think this decision was made after Conner went on IR either. I don't think they played into it. It just happens to help out. But yeah, I mean, this is not on the road traveling to Cleveland, potentially dealing with elements, and then also dealing with War Daddy type players like Myles Garrett, who are making everybody look foolish and like a turnstile, no matter how much success you had as a tackle in this league. So looking at Cleveland Browns have 18 players on the injury report. It's
that bad?
They had Deshaun Watson. He was practicing today in a limited capacity, and we'll see about Deshaun. But, you got, Amari Cooper, he had some rest. You got Myles Garrett getting some rest. You got Zadarius Smith getting some rest. But everybody else, like, legit on here, they had, say, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 DNPs. And then everybody else was pretty much limited. Jerome Ford, who was their solution after Chubb went down at the running back position, he's not 100% healthy. He's dealing with an ankle. This is not a full strength Browns team that really.
Well, I think that's why a lot of people want to see this a winnable game with Kyler Murray. But we've been saying that for a while, and I also think like this Browns defense is great now. What does poor quarterback play do for 17 weeks? It makes you start to regress as a team in general. Like I think their sustainability as a great defense is in serious question if Deshaun Watson eats a big bag of shit for the rest of the year and they have to rally with PJ Walker and DTR. Like it's a completely different dynamic. That defense, and I'm not saying this to poo-poo what they've done. They've been fantastic, but like guys start going down. We've talked about it before. People get checked out. Look at their division. Burrow, Lamar, and Kenny Pickett's terrible, but like you're not going to compete against those guys, even if you've got a great offensive line, what they do. Nick Chubb's gone. Like, I think that's going to start to weigh on them. You saw like PJ Walker's interception last week was backbreaking at the middle of the field. Like, you can't tell me, I'm sure they're licking their chops at Clayton Tune and whatever, but this is a winnable game for the Cardinals if they get competent quarterback play, just like the last couple of weeks. Like, that's why it's frustrating. You ought to be able to look at the schedule and say, if we play PJ Walker, we should win this game. If we play Deshaun Watson with one arm, we should win this game, especially with how this defense is playing. I'm so bullish on this defense under Jonathan Gannon. I'm fired up that they're playing young players. Kyle Odegaard put out some stats. You can find them at Pro Football Focus. Like, Garrett Williams has a perfect passer rating negative, meaning like it's a 0 passer rating allowed against him this year. He's been fantastic. B.J. Ojulari. Let me see B.J. Ojulari second consecutive week get pressure and get a sack. We talked about Dante Stills a lot yesterday. Like, this defense is trending in the right direction. What do they need? They need quarterback play. They've got weapons. They've got an emerging tight end. There's so much good right now with these young players. They need one of these. They need a maestro on Sunday. And respectfully, that's not Clayton Tune. So it's just nice to win one. And it's just been a hot minute since the Cardinals have done that.
Yeah. Clayton Tune, if you look at his stats from preseason, 353 yards, a touchdown, a pick where a receiver fell down, right? Okay. But he also had, I think, a pick that was dropped, and he had the really egregious where he didn't pick up the all-out blitz and just put himself right there to get teed off on, caused a fumble that set up the Vikings for an easy score once they kind of went the other direction. But, talk to Clayton Tune at his locker today. He's excited about the opportunity. Now, when we bring up preseason, we asked Tune, how he felt like how he's maybe evolved, matured, developed since preseason. This is what he had to say.
I would say I've made a lot of improvements, watching Dobbs, watching Kyler, watching, all the guys that have come before me, learning and learning from the mistakes that I've made early on. I feel like I've come a long way from training camp.
And that's what the coaching staff is maintained about Dobbs, even, going back to rookie mini camp, OTAs, training camp, preseason, that he is not a guy that makes the same mistake twice. So the stuff that we'll crucify him for and say, hey, he did this, and that, and he's not ready, he has at least improved on where he made mistakes before. At least you feel like he has. Asked JG today, like, how he feels that Clayton Tune's going to play. He said he's going to rip it. He's going to go out there. I hope if he's the guy, he's going to rip it. And I asked Tune about that. How does he feel like? Does he echo those same sentiments as his head coach? This is what he said.
Yeah, just go in there, play freely, play calm, and, just go out there and play the best way I know how.
And DJ Humphries, when talking about Tune, like, he has this confidence to him. It's borderline like cocky, whatever and I don't mean that in a bad way. He's got confidence out on it. Some people call it moxie, if I may.
I've been known to have that.
Yeah, you Johnny Venerable is synonymous.
Clayton Tune and I have a lot in common.
Moxie.
Tall, handsome.
But he's got it, right? I think, DJ Humphrey says he just kind of has a look on his eye, like that he's going to go out there and make a throw. So you really are like hoping for, I say hope because you're not relying on it, like that he catches lightning in a bottle. And he resembles the guy that people were getting excited about in preseason that we're hammering the table for.
And listen, that's possible for one game. Like, how many times have we seen not only rookies, but like guys who have never gotten a shot that have been in the NFL for like 2 or 3 seasons play like a really great, like 6 to 8 quarter stretch. And then they fizzle out. Like, I'm sure that's what they're hoping that they have here. 2 things can be true. Like, we were clamoring for Clayton Tune because Colt McCoy was so bad, but that didn't mean Clayton Tune was ready to start this year. And he wasn't. That's why they traded for Joshua Dobbs. Now, it's also a possibility. It's true that Dobbs hit a ceiling, and they want to see what they have for with Clayton Tune, and it just so happens they have to do that against the number 1 defense in the NFL. Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, think about this number 1 defense in the NFL. I just want you to look at their schedule real quick. The season opener, they played against the corpse of Joe Burrow. Nice. I mean, he was just awful. He couldn't move around. He was a cadaver back there in the pocket, and he was bad. They went outright, just dominate 24-3. Then they take on baby hands Pickett. Not a great quarterback. We all know that. Ryan and Tannehill with the Tennessee Titans. I mean, talk about a really nice schedule here for this Browns defense. You got Lamar, who dominated him. That was PJ Walker's first start, right? 28-3. And then you've got the injuries that the Niners sustained, and then Brock Purdy turned like, oh, once I can't just throw it to Christian McCaffrey, I'm going to pee down my leg. And he did that. Then you've got Gardner Minshew that they got into a shootout with. They gave up 38 points to Gardner Minshew and
should have lost that game.
Indianapolis Colts, and then Geno Smith, who they lose to. So not exactly murderer's row. Yeah.
But they've had shit quarterback play themselves, so I feel like it cancels each other out, because I'm sure they've been in positions where the field position's been terrible. Like I will give them the benefit of the doubt because their quarterback play has been equally bad, if not worse, than everybody they faced.
Yeah, it's tough to play complimentary football for sure.
Right. They've won games with their deep. Like Myles Garrett has won games by himself. Like that, that's on tape. That's been proven. They go 3 deep at corner. It's an elite defense with great players that I think will get progressively worse because they have no quarterback. Now, if Deshaun plays this week, he's working through some stuff with the medical team. I actually kind of like that just as much as PJ Walker, because Deshaun Watson is bad. He's not any good. Especially now if he's compromised with an injury. I think there's a greater chance too that Deshaun will give you the football more so than PJ Walker. I know Walker threw 2 interceptions last week, but I'm sure they're going to try to coach that out of them and say, we can beat the Cardinals by running 40 times and you're going to throw 15 passes. Whereas, Deshaun Watson, like when the Cardinals went into Cleveland 2 years ago with Cliff Kingsbury, like Baker Mayfield tried to make plays hurt that he just can't make. And the Cardinals routed the Browns, albeit with Kyler Murray and JJ Watt and D-Hop. So either one of these quarterbacks, the Cardinals, I think, will have success in.
You want to see PJ Walker? PJ Walker's
no, man.
No. They're atrocious. They're awful. Have you looked at them?
They were winning last week in Seattle.
No, he's got Seattle. 1 touchdown to 5 picks.
Okay, that's fair.
He's bad. He's a bad quarterback.
Deshaun's awful too, though, and I could see Deshaun. Have you seen some of these throws that he's made, like right to defensive backs? I'd be doing the hands drill all week if I was Nick Rallis with our defensive backs, because they're gonna put a couple right here. Let's come through, and it's usually say don't be a hero, go down, be a hero this week. Clayton Tune could have a tough time. Take it back.
If it's Tune Squad versus PJ Walker,
Electric.
We're hitting some territory that we hit at the end of last season, where it was like Colt McCoy and Brett Rippon, or David Blau versus whoever David Blau played. It's bad. It's bad quarterback matchup.
Magic man. He got us Paris Johnson Jr. though, so we'll be forever thankful for that man. Super chat, sports hero, friend of the program, 5 cold ones. K1 just needs to run out on the field during the game when JG is not looking. Ragdoll Tune and just start playing. Let's go. Kyler Murray's been pushing a play for weeks now. Kyler Murray would have not gone on the PUP list. If they would have been like, what do you want to do? He'd be like, I'll just practice. But they said, nope, you're too important to us. I'm sure that made him feel good. We're going to ease you in, and we're going to give you ample time at the end of the year. And while I think we all would have hoped I was wrong. I can say I was wrong on this podcast. I thought it was going to be early October. Had a schedule, hype videos. No, the team had something to do with that. And it's just, it didn't play out like that. But at the end of the day, the fact now that the postseason is out of reach officially at 1-7, the most important thing is you got to check 3 boxes. And I think we can check at least 2 of them now. Can Jonathan Gannon and his staff coach? Is it a big boy staff? Are the rookies have a clearly defined role? Are they ascending? And can Kyler Murray come back and be a franchise quarterback? I think we're going to have definitive answers on all those in January, and that means this season is a win in my opinion.
Yeah, those are a bunch of the boxes that you can check off, no doubt about it. Even though you've got egregious mock drafts out there that say that.
Let's see it. Hit me with it right in the fucking face. Let me see it, Bo Brock. This is from Yahoo Sports. I saw this morning trying to drink my coffee, and I almost choked to death. Yahoo Sports does good stuff, and then they put something out like this. And Charles McDaniel.
Old McDonald.
Old McDonald.
Charles McDonald. Never heard of him. His NFL mock draft. What is this?
Not good things. Drake.
For our audio listeners, please make them want to turn it off.
Your ears are bleeding. Drake Maye, first overall of the Cardinals. The Bears somehow get Caleb Williams at 2 and Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3. We've talked about it on this show a couple weeks ago, doing our draft podcast. There are teams in the NFL that have Drake Maye over Caleb Williams. Plus, Caleb Williams has fallen off a little bit. He's not a generational prospect like we all assumed. I think Trevor Lawrence was a better prospect now. The only way this could be worse is if the Cardinals were to take Brock Bowers, to me. And somehow Brock Bowers at 4 is so egregious. Keon Coleman's interesting. Joe Alt at 10 is an absolute steal. I hate to see that. Alou at 5 to the Patriots.
Johnny, can we admit this? This is as early as it is. This is an absolute just dog shit mock draft. Can we admit that? Damon Dog is very passionate about this. He was furious when he saw this. Damon, like Drake Maye, number 1, 1-1.
Drake Maye the last 2 weeks has lost to Virginia and Georgia Tech.
Nice.
And he's going number 1 over Caleb Williams in this mock draft.
That's the guy he can't elevate his team.
You know what they're going to say. You know,
Georgia Tech, right? That's Georgia Tech and Virginia, who had 1 win when UNC lost to him. He's going to go with. They're going to go with Drake Maye because he's tall. He's got a good arm.
You know what people are going to say? Josh Allen at Wyoming couldn't be a Power 5.
That's
school.
the exception,
right? That's what dumb people are going to say. Though.
Yeah, but dumb people don't make decisions for the Arizona Cardinals any longer.
Thank goodness for that. Listen. I'm not going to lie to you and say, like, the more I've watched Drake Maye make some throws, I'm like, oh, yeah, I see what people are talking about. Mm-hmm. But it also goes back to the definitive point I had before the season is, like, if you're going to be a top 2 pick in the ACC, Drake Maye, you need to win the ACC, or at the very least be in an ACC title game, contending for the playoff. Undefeated, 100%. Ripping shit up like Kyler Murray at practice, Drake Maye. You better be ripping up Boston College. You better be ripping up Tuna Fish U. And he's not. He's losing game. You're right. He's losing to 1-loss teams. There are games that their running backs are a stud.
Yeah.
They've got a running back that's going to be like a mid-rounder. Most of the time, he's running for like 200 yards. So he is tantalizing because he's got the arm, the size. He can throw across his body. But, like, it's cliche. He is everything. He is like Joe Burrow is everything he's not, because Joe Burrow doesn't blow you away with physical traits, but he's a winner, right? You can't measure it. That's like, if you took it and what's the antithesis of that, that's kind of what Drake Maye's got going on right now.
Justin Herbert.
Yeah. I mean, if you could say he's Herbert right now, you'd probably sign up for that.
Oh, but Herbert won a Rose Bowl at Oregon with bad personnel. I was in Eugene, and he was a stud in the Pac-12 that year.
Well, he had a great offensive line, to be fair.
He did. He had Penei Sewell. I think I'm going to say right now,
that's not Tuna Fish U, but
he's a worse prospect than Justin Herbert right now, in my opinion. I think in this draft,
1-1. I mean, Justin Herbert was the 3rd quarterback in his class. I mean, I know Burrow was special, and he had a special year, right? He threw like 70 touchdowns, and you had Tua, who, everybody was enamored with, and rightfully so.
That might be fair, Damon. That because Mario's done what since Justin Herbert left? He hasn't Mario Cristobal. Is that his last name? He hasn't done much. That's probably about right, actually. And you know what? I don't root against college athletes and young players, but I actively root for that not to happen for this franchise right here. I can't go from Kyler Murray to Drake Maye. And
UNC,
be
absolute quarterback factory. Sam Howell, Mitch Trubisky. I mean, they're just pumping them out.
Yeah.
Studs.
The mid quarterback factory. The mid and below.
Right. We got Baldy coming up, but before we do that, we got to talk about Circle K. So it's an inner circle. I want Drake Maye out of my inner circle, but I want you all in my inner circle at America's Thirst Stop. Free membership program. Save 25 cents on your first 5 fill-ups. Fantastic. Right now, check them out, circlek.com/store-locator. Get every 6 free selection at Circle K with all of their fabulous products. And speaking of fabulous, did we not have a fabulous time at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass over the weekend? Chef's kiss, Top Golf. Thank you all for coming out. Had a great time watching the games on Sunday. Cardinals took an L, but we took a W hanging out at Gila River. It was a blast. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not at Gila River a week from Sunday for Kyler Murray's return against the Atlanta Falcons, what are you waiting for? We're going to have giveaways, prizes, drink specials, food specials. It is the place to be. I had somebody come up to me who had never been there before and said, this is the nicest sports book I have ever been to, and had been to a ton of sports books north of here. It is first class. It's clean. It's just a great place to take in, 8 to 10 games at one time. And we're going to hook you up. Visit GilaRiver.com/showdown to get in on the action for more information. They're giving out 100 or I think 100 grand, 21 and up. They're doing giveaways November 5th, December 3rd, memorabilia, game tickets, whatever you want to do, but check them out. GilaMillion-Showdown.com. Get in on the action, Bo.
Love it. Eli Kyler's going to play us out of the QB sweepstakes. Not worried at all. Johnny Cash agreeing with that. A lot of great stuff in the chat. Also, a lot of great stuff going on over at Empire Today. What's Empire Today? Well, they're going to help get you set up with great flooring. Right now, you get $350 off new floors. Just go to empiretoday.com/PHNX. It keeps shopping floors simple. It's curated product selection, their philosophy to help us find what we need, but not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. Well, you could do this, but you could save here, you could cut some corners there, and then next thing you know, you're falling from the second floor of your house down to the below floor, the bottom floor. You don't want that. You don't want that disaster on your hands and the cleanup. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year for the perfect styles. They're going to do all the heavy lifting for you. Empire Today prides itself on convenient shop-at-home service. They help customers shop for floors. They use their floors, and they can see exactly where their new floors will look like, and their new home lighting, decor, everything you want, because they've got an unbelievable virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how those are going to look. So check it out today. Save some money while doing so. Schedule that free in-home estimate today. All listeners receive $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details.
Baldy's breakdown. Let's get to him, Damon Dog. Every week, it's Brian Baldinger, Baldy's breakdowns here, PHNX Cardinals podcast. And Baldy, what a week to have you on. Lots of change, not the change that we anticipated. It looks like we're going to have to wait one more week for Kyler Murray to return. But sub-headline, no Joshua Dobbs this week. Like, what do you make of Dobbs going to Minnesota, and then now the aforementioned rookie Clayton Tune taking over here in week 9?
So I'm just, I'm here in New Jersey. I'm removed from from the desert and all the things that happened. But I mean, I was hearing rumors that Clayton Tune might start anyways this week, just to maybe spark the. I mean, I'd heard that, but obviously the news of Kirk Cousins, they were picking up the phone and making phone calls. And so with Clayton Tune possibly getting a chance to play this week, and Kyler Murray on his way back to recovery, it became available. It's too bad. I mean, I thought Josh, we talked about week in, week out, has kept him very competitive, but obviously, they're getting outscored badly in the fourth quarter. They can't convert these fourth downs to stay in these games. And, it's maybe it's time to give the rookie a chance. He's University of Houston, Dana Holgorsen runs a good system there. Geno Smith came out of that system. A lot of guys have come out of that system with Dana. So, one thing that Clayton, you do at University of Houston or at West Virginia, wherever, you're going to throw the football a lot. And so, it kind of gets you, how to get yourself into a rhythm and play up tempo, some of the things that he's been used to doing.
Yeah, certainly put up a ton of numbers. Very productive there playing down in Houston. Excited about the big announcement today, by the way. ALLCITY, we've got our National Football Podcast. And can't wait to talk about what you and Andrew Gargano are going to bring on a daily basis. Anthony Gargano, apologies.
Just call him Cuz.
Yeah.
Man. He's just Cuz. he's a Philly born and bred kid. Like, he'll be walking through this door any minute here as we kind of get ready for this week. But just Cuz to the whole world.
Right. And you're going to be able to catch this football show, of course, on our podcast feed. Can't wait for it and what you guys are going to bring. But what are the biggest challenges, though, that you see for Tune making the transition from not a Power 5 conference, obviously, the offense he played in? I mean, what are the fifth-round rookie? What are his biggest challenges that he's going to face in a really, really good defense coming at him in the Cleveland Browns?
Maybe the league's best. I mean, he's going to see sticky, tight coverage. I just saw the Browns for the second week in a row up in Seattle and had a great chance to win that game. But, you've got a monster out there on the field in Myles Garrett. Like, you just got to be aware of him. DJ Humphries, wherever he lines up, you got to be ready. Paris Johnson, he lines up all over the place. But, they play very tight man coverage. But his biggest challenge, honestly, I think, Bo, is he hasn't played since the preseason. We're going into week 9. Preseason is one speed. Week 9, a team, trying to stay on track in the AFC North right now with teams that are kind of elevating themselves in Cincinnati and Baltimore. You're going to get the best shot from Cleveland's defense. They know that as long as Deshaun is out, and PJ's been fine, but he's a stopgap guy, like he's going to see a defense in midseason form, like knowing that they've got to win the game. They've got to, shut down the Arizona's offense. They got to get the ball back multiple times to an offense. So those are some of the challenges, just the speed and just the talent level. They got 3 corners, Denzel Ward, Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome. I mean, they can play man coverage as well as anybody in this business.
Would you say that the recipe for success, I don't even know to score points, but try to sustain drives with Clayton Tune Company is to run the football? Like it felt like at times this team got away from that with Joshua Dobbs. And they kind of got back to that last week, kept them alive until Dobbs, inexplicable turnovers, 2 bad interceptions last week at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Like I can't envision a scenario, Baldy. Number one, I don't really love the decision to play Tune this week, a week before Kyler Murray comes back. That's a different conversation. But then like having him throw 25, 30 times in Cleveland wind, that to me feels like you're setting the kid up for failure. And I know Gannon and company aren't going to do that, but to me, it's like, what's the perfect game plan for this week? Do you feel like?
Well, I mean, if they get Amari like just going, he had a lot of good runs against a great front last week in Baltimore. I was impressed. If Clayton can be a part of the run game, I mean, and whatever you can do to kind of chew up some clock, shorten the game, steal a possession, whether it's a fake punt, they're playing well on defense, very well on defense.
Yeah.
They're popping the ball loose. They're doing a lot of good things. It's good to see Buddha back on that side of the ball, but the defense has to help them out, but you just can't throw the ball every down against this team. You're just playing right into their hands. Seattle got away from the run game at some point last week, and they literally couldn't move the ball from first quarter on to late in the fourth quarter when they got a turnover. I mean, they were going 3 and out almost every series. And that's Geno Smith with a fleet of receivers and, decent personnel. They were going 3 and out over and over again.
You feel like they're doing Kyler Murray right by holding him out and not making his debut against this defense?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how healthy he is. Like if he's fully cleared to go play right now, there's going to be an incubation period. It's just been a long time since he's played. This isn't riding a bike. This is Deshaun Watson found that out last year in Cleveland after he missed a lot of time. He went out there and his timing was off all over the place. So, Kyler's just getting back into a rhythm right now. I think the longer you can the season, nobody's giving up on the season. You can tell by the way they play defense. But at the same time, they're not going anywhere this year. So if you wait another week, it's not going to hurt anything. Whether you're 1-7, 1-8, it's not going to hurt you. Like, make sure he's ready and give him the best possible chance.
I think that's what they're doing. And again, it's frustrating because we want to watch high-end quarterback play, but if it's for the long-term benefit of the team, you can't argue with that. Here's what I also can't argue with. I think Dante Stills up front on the defensive line is going to be a gem for the Arizona Cardinals. And I'll be honest with you, Baldy, like I didn't know much about him. 6th rounder out of Wisconsin or out of West Virginia. Mm-hmm. And like they need so badly a disrupting 3-5 technique on that defensive line. Am I overreacting to say like they've found a legitimate piece here?
I thought he played well last week. He showed up. He popped. They haven't had a guy like that since, Zach Allen, JJ, like those guys were that type of disruptive player. But you need that. And I thought against a good offensive line with a quarterback that is as mobile, if not more than any quarterback in this league, I thought he got there a few times last week and it showed. And so this is the time to go out there and show everybody that you belong, that they didn't misdraft you, that they made the right choice. I'm sure he wants to prove a lot of people wrong coming out of the Big 12. You don't get a lot of defensive linemen drafted in this, out of that conference into this league very often. He's got a chance to kind of show everybody that in Morgantown we play pretty good football.
You gave kind of the Cardinals fan base a little bit of a shot in the arm on your Twitter account. I encourage everybody watching, listening to follow at Baldy NFL about the Cardinals defense. I mean, as this team's 1-7 and you're looking for positives, you put there that they play the game the only way. You call it Full Metal Jacket, like being attacked by a swarm of red ants. Very colorful way of putting how hard they play on defense. But can you give maybe more to what you like about this defense coached up by the young Nick Rallis?
Well, the one thing you don't see, and I've watched every game, and I'm a big Buda Baker fan, so Buda's out there, man, my eyes are on him. But I don't see – this is difficult to interpret, but I don't see any bad body language. I see guys flying. I see guys getting to the ball. When they get a third down stop, it's like the biggest deal in the world. Like they've got a lot of juice, a lot of energy. Want to throw a hit screen to them? Okay, fine, If you don't make that first block, I mean, they're all going to swarm you. And that's the one picture I showed. I just showed 10 guys sprinting to the football. And if you freeze it at the end of some of these plays, on those type of plays, and that corner from the other side of the field or that safety on that half of the field is there at the ball, it's important. And I know a little bit about how Jonathan coaches that up and the peer pressure he puts on them. But that's how you got to play it, because good things happen when you get to the football. And they've made a lot of good things happen throughout the course of the season. And it's easy. I played on a 1-15 team. It's easy when the wheels begin to fall off in a game like they have been to just kind of hang your head, walk off the field, and just get through the game. But I just don't see that attitude. And that's a credit to Jonathan and to Nick.
Let's talk about their pass rush for a second. They're somehow top 10 in sacks, as my co-host has put it, without a household name on this defensive line. Now, one name that is familiar with most Cardinal fans is Zaven Collins. Do you think he's getting better? Because this is a reclamation project of sorts, going from inside to outside. They're trying to maximize where he was drafted, 16th overall, maybe pick up his fifth-year option next offseason. Have you seen enough tangible evidence on Sundays hey, this guy could be something here?
Well, I mean, I know he had the sack. He makes plays every week. I didn't think he was good. I didn't think he was a good off-the-ball inside linebacker, because I think at Tulsa, he just, he's 260 pounds. He was just bigger and stronger than everybody, and he was fast. But I don't think he used his hands well to get off blocks. There was an issue. And so, he's got to get still better with his hands. But, rushing from the outside, you've got to be more than just a speed or power rusher. You're only going to go so far with that. So I think he still has to build an arsenal. There's a lot of room to grow. This is the first year. There's a lot of things to see. You're on the line of scrimmage. He played off the ball inside. Hassan Reddick did that at Temple. And then he went to Arizona, and eventually, it didn't work out for him until the final year. Then he went to Carolina. He's an edge rusher. And they messed up by putting him off the ball inside, and he wasn't any good. And they really couldn't find a role for him. I think he has a chance, but I don't think he's got Hassan Reddick type ability. But so you're going to have to develop. He's a little stiff, he's just the way he's built. But there's something there to work with. But I want to see a true pass rush specialist work with him and develop an arsenal of moves. The team you just saw, Baltimore, they hired Chuck Smith out of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. He's a pass rush specialist. Well, it just so happens the Ravens lead the league in sacks right now. It's not a secret. I've seen every guy in that front develop. So I think there's room. I think there's a place for Zaven there. I think he's in the right place, because I know he's tough and he's fast and he hits and he plays hard. But you got to be more than that. You got to be able to beat, good tackles one-on-one in this business.
You highlighted some wizardry from Lamar Jackson. That touchdown pass is unreal, how he throws it around a guy. But I mean, for Lamar standards, that game, 170 total yards, 17 yards on the ground, 1 total touchdown. What did you think? What did Gannon and Rallis do? How were they able to kind of keep him bottled up?
Well, I didn't think they I didn't think they max blitzed or anything like that, where if you break contain, you're gone for a long ways. I thought they maintained pretty good rush lanes on him and kind of just kept him corralled, even though they were trying to get to him. But I didn't think they just gave him these big look, because I think his best runs, honestly, or when it's a design pass and these rush lanes open up and he just is able to use the speed and take off. So I thought they played zone. They kept their eyes on him, and he's making a better concerted effort to throw it and not take off with it. And it has worked to a degree. But yes, the numbers were down. They didn't put that game away to the very end. It was a ball game, into the fourth quarter. If the Cardinals could have made, one play offensively.
So I'll get you out of here with my last question on this, Baldy. Like, I think the frustration with this fan base is, Kyler Murray against this Cleveland Brown defense, you got a real chance at winning. Whereas even as well as the Cardinal defense is playing, like Clayton Tune, that's a tough sell. But if it is Clayton Tune versus somebody like PJ Walker or even a DTR rookie out of UCLA, like, the Cardinals have the horses and the confidence defensively, I think, to keep this game close. Do you agree with that?
I do. Cleveland's got a good offensive line. They played very well in Seattle last week. They're good in the trenches, both sides of the ball. But you've got to, they've been outscored 77-24 in the fourth quarter this year.
Yeah.
The quarter's killed them. It's just killed them. They've been in all we talk about every week. Like, eventually one team wears the other team down, breaks the other team's sword. And, PJ, as anybody watched the game last week, he's going to give you two.
Yeah.
Now, whether Jalen or Buddha or, Marco, one of these guys, you come down with him. But he's going to give you two. And, they just traded one of the receivers away, Donovan Peoples-Jones. They got a rookie, Cedric Tillman, that probably gets activated now out of Tennessee, but he's just a rookie. So, running back wise right now, I mean, they're pretty good. Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt, that's a good one too. But, the ball in PJ's hands now, they've turned the ball over a bunch.
Yeah.
They're going to give you opportunities.
Cannot wait to hear all the insight we're going to get from our All-City National NFL podcast with Brian Baldinger, of course, and the coach, Anthony Gargano. You can find it actually on this feed. It's not going to last. It's not going to be here forever, but we're going to have a couple of the first episodes right here where you find PHNX Cardinals. Baldy, always great insight. Can't wait to hear you officially, breaking it all down for All-City.
Well, we'll be talking some Cardinal football, regardless of what the record is. I promise you.
Thank you for that. Big thanks to Baldy and company for joining us today. Banner week, and it continues on Football Friday with our definitive Cardinals at Browns game preview. Check us out, gophnx.com. Subscribe, like this video. Let's get this video up over 150 likes here on a Wednesday. Will they or won't they start Kyler Murray, or is it Clayton Tune time? I'm Johnny Venerable. He's Bo Brock. We'll see you on Friday.
We all silly like the mayor.